The Do This podcast is part of the Win, Make, Give podcast network. In today's episode, host Chad Hyams sits down with real estate veteran Charlotte Mabry. Charlotte is a seasoned expert in the real estate industry, boasting a career that spans over 39 years. And together, they explore the intricacies of maintaining a successful long-term career in real estate. Chad and Charlotte discuss the importance of adapting to change. And Charlotte emphasizes the timelessness of some sales principles while underscoring the critical need to evolve with technology and consumer behaviors. Listen as Charlotte offers her wisdom from decades of experience, providing listeners with valuable lessons in leadership, accountability, and strategic planning. We hope you enjoy this episode of the Do This podcast presented by Brivity.
Says we've started, and it's Chad Hyams here on time. Bob Stewart, I got no clue where that guy is, right? But do we really need him? Well, yeah, we do. We love Bob Stewart. But he's not here right now. He'll be here shortly. Hopefully, Bob, if something is the reason you're not joining us, that we hope you're okay, let us know. But folks, I got somebody way better than Bob with me, right? So it doesn't matter. I've got the lovely Charlotte Mabry here with us today. Charlotte, thank you for taking the time today. I know how busy you are. I know how you're always on the go with so much. And Charlotte, I know you. You and I have a history together from my time being in the Southeast. But will you take a minute and introduce yourself to our audience so they have an idea who they're going to hear from today?
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you, Chad. I have been in the real estate space, in the sales space, since 1986. That's 19, not 1886, but 1986. So 39 years at this, and I've been blessed to have had a team of some sort for about 30 years. So if you want to know what not to do with building a team or having a team, I'm your gal. I can help you with that. Been very, very blessed. I have an awesome team. I have a couple of teams inside our team right now, so we're experimenting with making that work, and just honored to be here, and thank you for the opportunity.
Tell everybody where you are in case they have a referral for your town.
I love that. I am in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We work south of Knoxville all the way down to north of Atlanta. So we're in the Dalton, Georgia area as well. So we work both states, Tennessee and Georgia.
Yeah, anybody who knows Chattanooga knows you're basically on the border. So, yeah, you're going to have your license in both states for that. So, folks, if you need somebody, trust me, Charlotte's been there, knows it, and all of that. Charlotte, before we even get into 1986, I mean, we all remember the 80s, right? I mean, that was good. What's the one biggest difference, other than just saying the internet? What's the one biggest difference that from when you started to today in the world of real estate, really?
You know, from a technology thing, I can remember how excited I was that I had my own fax machine. I thought that was really cool. I've got my own fax machine. You know, I think if you just look at people purchasing homes, that has evolved and changed. What I see, the people who've lasted over time have been the people, your message stays the same, but how you deliver that message had better change or you won't be able to deliver it. So you've got to stay up with the times, but I think you can't always change your message. I mean, if you're focused on doing real estate right, which is what we've always wanted to do, we want to do real estate the right way, that message stays the same, but our delivery and our form of making that happen does change over time.
And by answering that, you also answered my next question, was going to be, and what stayed the same really and you're saying the message needs to stay the same as to who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. I think that's the test of time. And, you know, to have longevity in this business, you've got to do what you say you're going to do and worry less about, this is about making money. Money does make the world go around. But I think if you do that right thing, it sounds so trite, but it's true. If you do that right thing, you'll be able to stand the test of time.
That's awesome. Okay. When you were introducing yourself, you said, if you want to know what not to do, I'm the girl to ask. Tell me the two things I should not do. Tell me the things I should clear. Folks, write it down, right? Hear this from Charlotte today. What are those things I should make sure I don't do, even though I think, well, yeah, that's just you. I'm going to do it. Save me the headache.
Well, if you think having a team that you want to do a team, let's start there and let's decide why. Because if you're going to grow a team or have a team, typically the best teams that last over time come from you've got excess business. Don't just get out there and say, I just want a team because it sounds so cool. Been there, I've done that. Because it isn't always as easy as it sounds. So I would want to be sure I knew why. And then when it comes to growing a team, there's really two things you need to be sure you're dialed in on. One is who, and one is how. So having those systems, that's the how. And then being sure you have the right who. We as real estate salespeople are good at that. And I found I was terrible at the who part of that, of choosing people, not because they weren't great people, they just weren't the person I needed to be in that position.
So how have you identified the who that belongs in Charlotte's world now? Has it just been trial and error and everybody should go hire all the wrong people so that they learn? Or were there certain things that
to do that? Yeah, I'm sure.
Or there's certain things that, look, the person has to do this, this, and this, and it should have been very clear to me from the beginning that that was what it was.
Models are there for a reason, systems are there for a reason. And so there are plenty of ways that you can find models to grow a team, to grow your business. So that would be step number one is, what are you looking at from a model perspective? And of course, they get tweaked as time goes by. What works better. But I mean, start out if you're growing a team, doing your own business, hiring an assistant, then have a showing assistant, grow your team the right way, look at those models and make that happen. I think where I really struggled was going for that next step because there's not as much training and not as much information out there on, okay, you got a team. If you've got a bigger vision than that, how do you scale that team to the next step? How do you grow that team to the next step? What's this expansion thing all about? Can you have a team inside of a team? Those are things that are a little less tried and true. And that's where I found it was so important to hire the right person. If you're going to have a director of operations, it doesn't necessarily need to be someone just like you. Oh my gosh, if my director of ops was just like me, we'd have died a long time ago, right? So I'm that person who says, well, $1,000 one way or the other, it'll be fine. That makes all of our director of operations just shiver, right?
Yes.
So knowing looking at studying and taking time to interview the right people in the right seat on the right bus.
Okay, so we talked about this recently with someone else on one of our calls, and that was accountability. How do you hold people accountable, which is a huge challenge? Or how do you inspire people to hold themselves accountable, at least? Talk about the accountability challenge for all of our people out there, whether they're holding someone else or even if they're just holding themselves, which is one of the hardest things to do in life.
So hard. It really is hard. We were talking about this in one of our admin meetings this week, as a matter of fact. I think you have to have something on the front end and the back end. We push really hard on our people to hold them accountable. And I feel like there's a balance between some weeks we push really hard, but I think some weeks we've got to motivate and pull as well. And so, there's the threats that we make on the back end, like, do you want to live to see tomorrow? Accountability. And then there is the other thing of going, wow, you're doing so awesome. Let's celebrate that and let's pull you forward. And so I think you have to have a healthy mix of both of those things, whether it is, the daily scorecard, the weekly scorecard, how we track all of our things. We have some people, and we all struggle with this. people that are great at producing but can't find the time or don't want to find the time to track it all in Brivity. Yeah, I'm right there too. I mean, I totally understand that. Then we have the people that are good at tracking, but they don't sell very much. And so, how do we encourage both of those sets of people? How do we push without pushing too hard? And then we have to decide, okay, where's our bottom line? What do we stand for? And where are we willing to draw the line in the sand that if you don't do this, we will let you go? And that's a hard thing to do, especially when you have people in your world that are producing. I think in our world, it comes down to more of a culture thing. If you're making an effort, we love you. We're going to help you. We're going to celebrate that, because making the effort, doing the activities is what we celebrate and track. But if we step out of that, or you're just saying, well, I don't like that, Charlotte, I'm not going to do that, that's where we probably have to have that conversation.
So I heard in their standards, I don't think you said the word, but I heard in their standards. Talk about the standard. Do you have a lot of standards? Do you have very few standards? Did you just dictate the standards? Did your team buy into creating what they believed the standards were? Talk to us about standards helping for accountability as a leader.
Yes to all of that and no to all of that. Yes, in the beginning, we sort of dictated that. I have found that when we have buy-in, it's much better for people to buy in. So we need some of their advice and some of their thoughts on that. Having fewer standards, but they are non-negotiable, is the route we have taken. So we say, okay, you're going to be on these power-ups. You're going to track. This is what we require as far as number of contacts during the week. I mean, those are the things that are non-negotiable. So we want to be sure that our people are making their contacts. And one of the things we teach on our team, Ben Kinney is a real fan of his 5 buckets of wealth.
Oh, yes.
Each 3 buckets of wealth in your real estate game, in your real estate business. One is your sphere of influence. So if you are in that sphere of influence bucket, you should be dipping water out of it. But if you dip all the water out and never put any back, your bucket runs dry. So we want to be sure that one of our accountability standards is, are you working that sphere of influence bucket, putting things in and also taking things out? The next bucket is your...
Hang on, Charlotte. So putting things in, meaning adding new people to my sphere, pulling things out, meaning calling them, texting them, whatever communication I'm going to use.
Things, right? Whatever it is that we're doing. We always hear that our database is our business, and it is, but if you're not working that database, or let's say you are working your database, if you're not always adding to it and all you're doing is taking out of your database to sell them something and to use them as your business, sooner or later your database dries up because you never added to it. So if we look at our sphere, our accountability measures have to do with, okay, what did you do in your sphere bucket this week? Did you add to that? Did you take some out of there? So we look at that one bucket. The next bucket are internet leads. We were using monies to pay for internet leads. They are as well different things. So internet leads, as you know, 10 years ago would respond to things in one way. Today's internet lead is not yo mama's internet lead from 10 years ago, right? They're a lot different. So not same thing with that bucket. We've got to be pouring leads in as we are taking leads out and working with them. And then the third bucket is your prospecting that you do. And so whether that's doing an open house, or you're working a neighborhood, or you're in a B&I group, or you're door knocking, whatever it is that you do to prospect. And so our accountability is built around those 3 buckets. Each week, we want to see that you've done something with your sphere. You've done something with the internet leads. You've done something with prospecting, so that those 3 buckets are being carried around, and we can look in our CRM and note that you've actually picked them up and done something with them.
That is right. And that's a great way to look at it and a great way to break it down. Folks, rewind, right? Go back, click back, watch Charlotte break those 3 buckets down for you. Now, I'm going to throw a shameless plug in, I guess. If you want to know more about Ben Kinney's 5 buckets of wealth that Charlotte started this conversation with, go to winmakegive.com/wealth. And you'll be able to hear the wealth series, podcast series that we did. In one of those episodes, Bob, Ben, and I go deep into the buckets of wealth for you. You'll find that as you're going through the series. So winmakegive.com/wealth. Okay, Charlotte, I'm going off the script, right? We have some things that Charlotte and our team had talked about. I'm going off script because you're a purposeful lady. It's one of the things I know about you. You don't do things by accident. You don't do things over your shoulder. I see only one book anywhere in the room. It's sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. I could tell what it was from sitting there on the desk.
Book club right now. Our team is.
I was going to say, what made that book be the one that earned a spot out there? It's what the book club is doing right now.
2024 was not our best year as a team. And there's probably people listening today that 2024 was not your best ever. It was not ours. We're off to a much better 2025. And so for business planning last year, I gave this book to everyone on the team. I said, okay, starting January, sometimes we win, sometimes we learn. We didn't always win last year. What can we learn from that? And so we are doing book club right now. And so each one of our power-ups, our Monday power-ups each week, a separate person on our team is responsible for a chapter. And so we're reading through that book together.
Okay. So what is something, I mean, as you said, and anybody who's been in business for, I'm going to say 4 years or more, means you went through COVID as an agent. There's no way last year was your best year ever, right? Because you had to really get in your own way for 21 and 22 to not be, or 20 and 21, whatever it actually was, not be great years because the market was just going stupid during that time. So last year, absolutely, hopefully it wasn't your worst, yet it definitely wasn't going to be your best. Talk to me about something that you didn't win at, yet you've learned from in 2024 that you've already applied and seen the lessons pay off.
Love that. That's a great question. Prior to 2020, we had to work to sell real estate, right? I mean, you showed up, you worked. There was a slice of time in 20 and 21 where if you fogged a mirror and you got up each day, you could actually sell a house.
Right.
There were a lot of people who came into this industry in 20 and 21. And through no fault of their own, that's how they knew to sell real estate. Then along comes 2024 and 2025, where we're back to normal, where you got to work. And so we've had to learn techniques of, I was frustrated with people. I was like, what's wrong with you guys? Don't you know how to work? But they didn't have to. They never learned those skills. So people that have come into our world, because I love teaching and I love training and I love learning. And so that's what our team is built around, is that we're not just going to give you a fish, we're going to teach you how to do that, because I feel like that's my gift to the people on my team. It's not necessarily giving them a lead, it's teaching them how to get that. And so that's been a little bit of an uphill struggle. And I think that's what we went through last year, is we had people who had been in business 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. I have a couple of people on my team that have been in business over 20 years. And, this was very frustrating for them to realize that, okay, we used to be able to sell like that. Well, what got us there back then is not going to get us there today. So it's a different world. And so I think that's what the biggest frustration for our team was, is it used to be easy and now it's not.
It's a great, simple takeaway, because everybody listening to this, I don't care who you are, everybody listening to this, you had challenges in 2024. Right? You had some challenges in 2023. It's not that it just waited till last year to start. And for some people, they're still having challenges because they're not learning from it. Yet for the other people that I see, Charlotte, that are learning based, I'm seeing a lot of people off to great starts for 2025. Almost like, we came out of it, we learned the lessons, we're all moving forward.
Right.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say an additional lesson that is another layer on that. One of our original thoughts on this podcast was talking a little bit about exiting real estate and how do you do that.
Right.
And so I had begun a process. Really, one of the reasons that I partnered with some of my business partners a few years ago was looking at how do I have an exit strategy. With nearly 40 years of doing this, I realized I love it, but I'm not getting any younger. And so I'm looking at exit strategies. So I put into place some what I thought was a great exit strategy. And I found that it didn't work exactly like I thought. I learned some great lessons from that. Some were easier to learn, some were tougher to learn. And so, scaling your business so that you can exit. I had not been in production myself in about 10 years. So it wasn't that I was trying to exit from production, although that's a phase you go through in building a team.
Yep.
This was, okay, how do I put a CEO in place, and how do I begin to really step away? And I found there were struggles with that, both things that I didn't do a good job on selecting people. And then I found it harder myself to let go of things. So those were lessons learned as well.
Great lessons. And thank you for sharing. Audience, a lot of real estate people wait too long to think about an exit strategy.
Absolutely.
Right? You've been in business, you said, since mid 80s. You didn't think about the term exit strategy until, yes, you exited from maybe being in production full time, but a full on exit strategy has probably been the last maybe 2 years, I would guess, that you've kind of maybe been toying with and thinking about it. Not everybody's going to build a team, but they should all have an exit strategy when they get into this, correct?
I can't tell you the number of people I've spoken with, because one of the things I really enjoy is helping people build teams. And from a recruiting standpoint into my world, I really love having experienced agents be a team within my own team so that I can help grow them. And we've developed a system for that. But I can't tell you the number of people that I've talked to who've been in business 10, 20, 30 or more years who don't have a team, and that's fine. But they've never thought about it. They're like, well, I'll just sell my database. Well, if you've not ever trained your database to want to talk to someone besides you, your database is worth nothing when you are not there. And so, yeah, you've got names, you sold these houses, and we know their addresses and everything. But if I call Chad's database and they go, well, who are you and why are you calling me? There's no value in Chad's database if Chad didn't start somewhere along the way to go, hey, there's this girl named Charlotte. She's going to call you, and that's okay. So we need to begin to train our database to want someone besides just us.
That's such a great point, that, it's either that or the exit strategy is, well, I'm just going to work until I just don't. Right.
And that's what most people do. And that's fine. But think of the income stream that they walked away from that they could have had in retirement. And had they thought about it ahead of time or set it up ahead of time, and there are ways to do that. And that's what we're beginning to develop systems for. So I'm excited about that, where I'm actually got a class that I'm working on for that. But, you got to start with the end in mind on that. And that's a trite statement, but it is so true when it comes to retirement.
Absolutely. Okay, we've got a few minutes left, and Brivity is the platform that brings us this call. So let's take the last few minutes, Charlotte. How has Brivity helped your leadership, your accountability, all those things? How have you used it that everybody listening should be like, I should be doing that with my account?
Well, back to those three buckets. I mean, you can carry those three buckets around in your hand all the time and slosh the water around everywhere. But, and you can go back to the 1980s and keep up with everything on a 3x5 card if you even know what that is. But, I mean, it's so nice to be able to have it all in one gizmo, a digital product there that I can check on my sphere of influence. I can easily differentiate my sphere of influence bucket from my internet lead bucket from my prospecting bucket just by pushing a button. So I love that. And from a leadership perspective, the way Brivity is set up now, I can track everybody's activity in there. I can see the whole team's activity in there. All of my financials are in there. It is a one-stop shop, and I love that. And it's made me be more accountable to myself. And it helps it again, back to that putting pressure on the back end and pulling people along on the front end by having people making them look in that Brivity account and seeing where they are. For my competitive people, they love seeing where they are in the scheme of things, knowing what they're, where they are on their level of competition. But I can easily say, you told me you made 10 phone calls, but I only see one in here. What happened? Oh, I forgot to put it in there. Okay, let's right now. Tell me who it is. Let's get it put in there. And I can cut through some of the sales pitch that I get sometimes because I've got to see it right there. They can't just tell me that.
Yeah, that's the nice way to say BS. Right? Yeah, right. Let's actually have it. How many times I say, yeah, I made my calls. You're right. I don't see them. So show me. That just means you didn't update it. Well, let's update it right now, not
right now.
Or be honest with me and you didn't hit the standard and now we have a different conversation. The thing I'm going to take away from this call, Charlotte, and I get the pleasure of asking the questions, so it helps me be able to say, here's what I want to know right now. I'm going to ask this question. I didn't ask it at all, yet you brought it up twice in this conversation, and that is the push and the pull, right? And folks, you've probably heard it maybe a little differently because you've heard about the carrot and the stick, right? And most people run from fear, not run to pleasure. And that's the analogy of the carrot and the stick. The donkey runs to the carrot, never gets it. He's also running away from being smacked by the other end of the stick. And I think you do an amazing job, and we all need to remember that there are both ends. Yeah. There is the stick to hit the donkey when the donkey needs it, and there is the carrot to give the donkey when the donkey gets to the end of the ride. To reward, we have to do the push and the pull. I think that's a fantastic message that everybody remembers to take away from this.
You need to know who your people are and whether they gravitate to one to the other. And, I have some people that are really emerging leaders that want to get into that leadership field. And so we drop them in the deep end of leadership. And sometimes it's messy, but, we put the pressure on, but then we celebrate the effort that they made. Because we want them to get out there and, you don't just get up tomorrow and become a leader. It's a process. And so sometimes you do have to get wet in the deep end before you learn how to really swim well.
Well, and you've been doing it really well for a really long time, folks. Come on. Michael J. Fox was going back to the future. Charlotte was getting into real estate. Just want you to understand. And she has figured it out. She is in Chattanooga, Tennessee. You can find her socially. You want to ask this lady a question. She's a powerhouse to ask. We have found Bob. I just want everyone to know. I just told him stay out of the way once I found him because I was having too much fun and we were on a roll where we wanted to be. But folks, we'll bring Bob back next week as we continue to bring you some amazing talent just like Charlotte and help you figure out what you need to do as you keep moving forward. Charlotte, thanks for joining us today.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for the opportunity.
Bye, everybody.